Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Zadara Exceptional webinar, Has VMware Abandoned You? I'd like to introduce you to our speakers. Can you go to the next slide for me, please? Chris, thank you. Jeff Francis is Zadara's CTO for North America, and Chris McEwen is the CEO and founder of Xceptional. We're going to talk you through some presentation today, and during the presentation, you'll see some polling questions pop up. We'd love your feedback on those polling questions as we run through the webinar, and then we will take Q&A at the end of the webinar. You can pop your questions into the Q&A chat or simply just ask a question. It should be at the bottom of your screen there, and we'll answer your questions at the end. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to pass it over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining, everybody. It's my pleasure today to present this topic with Jeff, my colleague and partner. We'll just go ahead and get started. Here's our agenda today. So, our subject is has VMware abandoned you? So this is all about VMware and the history, and so we'll first talk about VMware's timeline of its existence. Then we'll get into a little bit of what made VMware so great. We'll talk about what has changed, and why are we here talking about this subject today. We'll talk about what options you have. We'll talk about how Xceptional can help you, and we'll talk about what you should do next. So, without further ado, the timeline. So VMware was acquired by EMC. So VMware was actually, I think, established in the 90s or early 2000s as a company that made hypervisor software. So as people know, it's a solution to virtualize your data center. So they were doing really well, and EMC, a large storage manufacturer, acquired them in 2004. For a small sum of $625 million. That brought a lot of resources to VMware that allowed them to grow, obviously. And then in 2016, 12 years later, Dell spent $67 billion buying EMC, which included VMware. And so Dell not only owned one of the largest, most established storage manufacturers. They add to their ecosystem of storage providers. They also bought VMware, which was a little awkward for the industry because there was lots of other server manufacturers that relied on software made by their competition. Jeff, did you have a comment there?
Yeah, I was just going to say that was one of the largest acquisitions in the tech space of its time. And it really did put the industry on notice that, the juggernaut of VMware, everybody understood that they really had a powerful solution. But now Dell brought it in-house, and then the next thing, Chris, what happens?
5 years later in 2021, Jeff, they spun it out. Basically, as an all-stock deal, splitting out VMware to be an independent company again, which I think was under pressure from HP, IBM, Cisco to a certain extent, right? Not wanting their main competitor in the server space to be also the main software vendor. So under pressure, they spun it out. And then a couple years later, Broadcom acquired VMware for $61 billion. So you can see on that timeline from 2004, VMware was worth $625 million. 19 years later, it's worth $61 billion. So a huge growth in market capitalization and enterprise value. Hugely successful business. What happened next? Well, things didn't go well for the industry. Partners like us, distributors like our vendors, and so on. Broadcom really wreaked havoc on that paradigm. In 2024, so just last year, they basically canceled almost all reseller contracts, consolidating and throwing turmoil into that industry, our industry. In May, they dropped Amazon as a reseller of VMware. In January this year, Ingram Micro, the world's second largest distributor of IT products and a lot of different products, drops Broadcom altogether. So not just the VMware line of business, but all other products and services that Broadcom offers, Ingram Micro decided not to do business with them anymore. And then in May of 2025, Broadcom started sending cease and desist letters to customers. Why? We'll talk about that in a second. But they started getting active in their efforts to bend the industry to its will. Do you have any comments before I move on, Jeff?
Yeah, so obviously a very successful company and an important company, VMware. And then you see after the Broadcom acquisition, just a change in its approach towards the market to very large few partners. And it's really had a dramatic effect on most of the ecosystem. I think everybody pretty much attending this webinar has been touched in one form or another by these various activities. And this is what leads us to the conversation we're having today. So it was a really good setup.
So what made VMware so great? If you're in IT, you probably know all these things, but I'll just kind of run through them quickly, right? As the first vendor on the block, so to speak, they were revolutionary in their approach to business. Before VMware, everything was bare metal, meaning one server, one operating system installation, and what you got was an average utilization of that bare metal infrastructure, which is in the single digits percentage-wise. So you often overbought CPU, memory, storage, and only used some very small percentage of that. What VMware allowed you to do was obviously share that hardware across multiple operating system instances, and thereby getting more value from your investment in hardware, obviously. So go ahead.
It was a really big deal, right, Chris? That before, if you needed 100 servers, you had to buy 100 servers and maintain 100 servers and power 100 servers. So the reason that VMware made such a big impact on the marketplace is they really brought virtualization to life. What we typically see, even now, 20 years later, if you need 100 servers, you might only need 6. And that's in the physical realm to be able to have that many servers be shared. It was a time of the delivery of a lot of key innovation and features. And so we've seen, so Chris, your organization has done a lot for customers around being able to do maintenance of the infrastructure without the servers and applications actually knowing. vMotion was a really big deal when it first came out, the ability to move those virtual servers around. Things like the dynamic resource scheduler. This is where we got the capability of what if there is one virtual machine that gets really busy? Well, the system is smart where it will move the other VMs off of that same shared host, because if it's saturated the network, saturated the storage, it would basically balance the virtual environment for you. These were key innovation features that you see carried through to some of the new platforms today. The last bit's about high availability and a vCenter. These were new concepts at the time. What if you had a cluster fabric with a high availability where you could lose a power supply or lose an entire server? And the other virtual machines will just continue on. That was what the whole virtualized data center ecosystem brought to you. Now, one thing it also brought was some management complexity, but then VMware quickly solved that too. They brought out products like the vCenter server so that you could get one GUI console to look at those 100 servers in your environment and understand how to group them, power them, clone them, be able to use those. What was the business impact from all of that? How did this also, help benefit the IT? Well, there was, as we just said, 100 servers getting reduced. So your hardware, you have a cost savings, more efficient. You also have increased flexibility and agility in that, what if you wanted to clone 4 or 5 servers and test a patch? What if you wanted to take an entire environment and move it around from one place to another? These things became a lot easier now that virtual machines are just containers sitting on top of a cluster, as opposed to those physical servers. This also led the industry to start offering new disaster recovery solutions, because now you could objectify production. You could take a copy of that and run that somewhere else in a bubble to test your DR, or go run it somewhere else very easy as a disaster recovery scenario. These things were very difficult before. So really, it made the whole environment easier to manage. And VMware, frankly, they gave us the foundation when it comes to open systems. So they used to have this in mainframes and mid-range systems from a long time ago. But now for open systems, the x86 world, this was the foundation of the cloud. So this is what made VMware so great in our perspective about where it really changed the scene and where the benefits were really delivered to IT. Wouldn't you agree, Chris?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What changed? Well, after the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom, the most pronounced changes were a dramatic change in the licensing model and the prices for those licensing models. So first and foremost, Broadcom ended the concept of perpetual licenses for VMware. You can no longer buy a perpetual license for a certain number of cores for ESXi. You just can't. You have to buy a subscription for that core. In addition to that, they increased the price of what end users or customers were traditionally used to paying for renewing maintenance contracts on their perpetual license. They no longer offered those maintenance renewals and forced clients into a subscription, which was much higher cost than their maintenance renewals. And then they created bundles of products. For example, I think the minimum purchase, at least was recently, until recently, was 72 cores. So you could have a small server environment with, let's say, 24 cores where you were forced to buy a subscription for 72 cores. In addition to what the direct impact on the end user community, such as pricing and perpetual licensing models going away, they also restructured the partner ecosystem, which I alluded to in the timeline, basically consolidating distributorship and the partner community into a sole source distributor, Broadcom, and very few partners can continue to sell VMware subscriptions and at a much higher price. So they took a lot of clients direct. The larger clients, they just took direct, forcing out their partners, and it became an invitation-only partner ecosystem. So much smaller, much more enterprise focus. You can see from those first two changes that they're trying to go up market and not support the mid or small business market. They also reduced their support footprint. By all accounts, they reduced staff and reduced the delivery expectations, and they lost their company culture. They changed the company culture, I should say, from the VMware culture to what it is today. VMware, I would argue, had a world-class support organization. The anecdotal stories I hear about the new level of support is leaving customers wanting more. What were the consequences of all these changes? Well, it forced clients like yourselves to consider migrating off of VMware because of the cost increases, because of the support model, because of the partner ecosystem. That caused a lot of customers to look at what was out there, and that's what we're here to talk about today. There has been some regulatory scrutiny and some legal cases about Broadcom's new business practices as it pertains to VMware. And so there's lots of uncertainty and turmoil there. And then there's a huge loss of goodwill and brand reputation for VMware after the Broadcom acquisition. There's a bunch of mad customers and a bunch of mad partners. You want to add to that, Jeff?
Yeah, and so this is where, again, we come to the conversation today. I think a lot of the people in our audience have been touched by this in one form or another. There's some polling questions on your screen, and we wanted to get a quick survey that we could read back to, where a lot of you are coming from. Perhaps it's that it's as simple as the cost of the licenses have changed, or maybe this change, frankly, of the system is now making you look towards more managed solutions like the cloud from the hyperscalers. Or maybe there's desires on your part to actually have that next step function of higher performance and scalability without having to pay an arm and a leg for that type of new hardware. There's other organizations that we're also going to see just are looking to simplify the whole server infrastructure part of this. And this is, again, kind of a nod towards the hyperscalers, which have made that a lot easier. But there's a lot of organizations that are asking if there is an easier way to do this compared to the way they did it before. And that forcing function has been this change with VMware. The last one that we really want to focus on with these polling questions is that, are some of you nearing an expiration where you need to make a decision? It was our intention with this webinar today to help inform you about what choices are out there What are some of the strengths and what are some of the weaknesses of those? And so with that message, let's actually move to the next page. And we want to give a quick introduction to the ones we're going to talk about. So as you can see here, we've outlined 5 different choices you could consider. We do know that these are the most often spoken about in the enterprise space by customers. They ask about these most often because they have either a good market penetration or they're kind of interesting to look at. But one of the reasons also that stimulates these discussions, you're going to see in the strengths and weaknesses, where some of these just make life a lot easier or they're aligned with an ecosystem you might already be using. So Chris, let's turn the page and start talking about some of their options.
Great, thanks. So the first one, Microsoft Hyper-V. I think an obvious choice, right? Most customers today run some footprint of Microsoft Windows Server of some variation, and probably some Microsoft applications of some variation. So it's an easy jump, especially for administrators and IT people with lots of history of experience with Microsoft, to consider Microsoft Hyper-V. Microsoft Hyper-V is basically the hypervisor that runs on a Microsoft Windows operating system. So in each one of these vendor profiles, we're just talking about strengths and weaknesses, and we'll add our own commentary to it as well. But what are the strengths of Hyper-V? Well, it's an attractive price, right? It is essentially a Windows Server license, and that allows you to use, there's no specific cost for Hyper-V, as long as the server's licensed for the Windows Server. The concept of an ease of use or transition for Windows administrators. It's built into the Windows operating system, and most Windows administrators have been certified on it if they went through certification or have some experience with it. There's a deep integration with Microsoft products, obviously, right? There's a co-developed or it's the same development team, right? Developing the operating system and a lot of these products, so the same company anyway. And there's deep Azure integration. So if you're an Azure shop, have lots of Azure infrastructure up in the cloud, there's good tie-in with their on-premise Hyper-V infrastructure. What are some of the weaknesses? Well, as you scale, right, to many servers, there's a significant level of management complexity. Not all capabilities are put into the GUI that manages Hyper-V. So you spend a lot of time in command line and PowerShell and other things, and that adds complexity for folks who are probably not accustomed to command line issues, command line functions. It's a less mature feature set, meaning where VMware continually expanded its features and functionality, Microsoft really kind of said, we're going to do this and we're going to do this really well, and it was a small subset of those features. The clustering and HA features inside of Microsoft Hyper-V are complex and require additional products. There are other applications that ride over top of the Microsoft Hyper-V infrastructure to try to simplify and centralize administrative functions. I would argue not as good as a vCenter infrastructure, right, in terms of the administrative end user experience. Multi-tenancy is complex and requires additional products. It's just not baked into the cake, right? So having a service provider be able to provide a Hyper-V infrastructure that's shared across multiple customers is virtually impossible. And within a customer environment, trying to separate what's running in those Hyper-V environments is difficult. And you're running the last one there. You're running Windows operating system as the hypervisor, and virtual machines running underneath that as a hierarchical model, right? Well, just comparing to VMware probably needed to be patched once a quarter, unless there was a high severity issue that came out, where I think Windows servers, they're patch windows every week, right? Patch Tuesdays. So if you have to patch your hypervisor on a weekly basis, or should patch your hypervisor on a weekly basis, that can create some frustration and some maintenance concerns, obviously. So big difference there.
And Chris, let's be honest, I think a lot of IT shops were probably patching VMware once or twice a year, even when patches came out.
Correct.
The net of that message on Hyper-V, I think, is also that this is a massive sized operating system, and it's a great data center product from Microsoft. But they've used that large product to also deliver a hypervisor and a virtualized environment. So you see that it comes with a lot of this extra baggage. And on the multi-tenancy message, this is where a number of products will offer, they'll talk about being multi-tenancy, but you could enforce policies on Hyper-V that would unintentionally provide sharing between tenants that think that they're safe from each other. So there are ways that are kind of sensitive at how you build this. We want to keep these messages high level so you get a chance to see all of the different options in front of you. But part of this lead in, and we get into this level of detail, is because we want to encourage you after this webinar to actually have a conversation with Xceptional about how each of these might look for you.
Thank you, Jeff. Another option we have out there is Nutanix. So Nutanix is a software vendor. They don't make hardware, similar to Microsoft. They are intended to be hyper-converged. So what are the strengths? They have a simplicity and ease of management, right? So their tools are built to handle the hypervisor, the storage, and the network level, sort of all in one. It built on a hyper-converged architecture, meaning compute, storage, and network in one platform. It's cost effective, and has predictable scaling. So Nutanix, I've heard of large, very large environments with running Nutanix. It allows you to have independence as far as what hardware vendor you choose, and you can even use Nutanix to manage other hypervisors. So it's a flexible product. What are some of its weaknesses? Well, it's again, comparing to VMware, less mature partner ecosystem than before acquisition, and integration, right? So developing, I would say, ecosystem of third-party vendors. I said while there is multiple options, you can pick Dell, HP, Cisco for your server hardware. The hardware set that they support within those manufacturers is limited, where VMware supported just about every new server that was out there, as long as your CPUs were compatible with the latest version, where I think Nutanix says this set of hardware is supported. And meaning compute, storage, network, particular models, particular size infrastructure. It's perceived as a niche solution. I think VMware replacement or VMware Alternative is that niche, and it has fewer advanced features than VMware did. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that you were accustomed to in a VMware infrastructure is not present in Nutanix.
Yep. So Nutanix is not new on the scene, and they've been looking to be a VMware alternative for quite some time. One of the reasons that they are perceived as a niche solution is that as organizations thought to change from VMware to something else, the majority of those organizations actually got attracted to the hyperscale model when they first heard about it. They got attracted for the reasons we're going to talk about on those slides. But really, as organizations were thinking, if I'm not going to do VMware, Nutanix has been out there as a choice for a long time. But there are reasons why it didn't get selected, and it's been kind of more of a niche solution for organizations.
Our next product is called Proxmox. Proxmox is another viable alternative to VMware. I think it was designed to look very similarly and have very similar capabilities and features as VMware, but with an attractive price, right? So it's open source, no cost for the software, but there is a product support model, but it is open source. So that's community or support is one option, with a support contract from various vendors, including Proxmox. It has simple management, so web-based interface similar to what VMware achieved after version 6 and beyond, where you don't need a fat client installed on your administrative workstation to administer the environment. You just use a web browser. And it's well suited for home labs and small app development shops because of the low cost. What are its weaknesses? Well, paid support is next business days, answers to email. So again, it's that open source support model, community support model, more of that sort of thing. It lacks enterprise features such as dynamic resource scheduling or software-defined networking. A lot of those things are available in the VMware Enterprise Plus, ESXi Enterprise Plus models, license levels. Things that a lot of administrators have come to depend on are not going to be available on Proxmox yet. It is underdeveloped support ecosystem. I've talked a little bit about that. Steep learning curve. So it's a brand new product, brand new capabilities, brand new processes, etc. Limited scalability. So I think it's mostly designed for the small, medium-sized environments. So you have a large footprint, it's probably not the best. And then backup and restore features are somewhat limited and come with some additional cost. Do you have any comment on that?
We're just reminded that, so VMware used to offer a free product that IT folks could run a home lab. They could do some small environments for app development. When Broadcom made their acquisition, they actually discontinued that model, and that allowed a lot of people to look towards Proxmox for what are they going to do for those. We think this is a good solution for home labs and even for some small application development departments, unless you're doing a lot of fancy, CI/CD pipelines and things like that. But there's definitely a place where Proxmox has been helpful for organizations. And ending on that last message there about some of the basic features that you would expect of your hosting environment, like backup and restore, they are extra paid features. So while the software comes at no cost, and if you want support, you can buy support from organizations like Proxmox for a fee, and then they'll do better than the community supported model type of thing, but it's still not really your enterprise type of software. Now we'll move on and talk about the hyperscalers. So what is the big deal about them coming onto the scene? Remember when VMware came onto the scene, they changed everything. 100 servers, back in that time, could consolidate down to 12. Nowadays, you can get to 6 or 7. Well, with the hyperscalers, you forgot about how many servers you needed. Why? Because now they were hosting everything for you up in the cloud. And this is where the public vernacular for the first time learned about the cloud. Everybody thought that your photographs on your iPhone were sitting in a cloud, but they didn't really understand it conceptually. Now, the hyperscalers brought the cloud to all of these professional businesses and enterprises. The big catchphrase about why the cloud was important, the big topics were that it's a 24/7 managed service with an uptime SLA. That is so different and removed from you design the system yourself, you implement the system yourself, you maintain and monitor and manage that system yourself. And if you have downtime, there's no SLA credits involved in that. Well, the cloud changed, the hyperscalers changed all of that. They also hand in hand went to a model where they could bill you by the hour. So that was important because some applications don't need to be running 7 days a week. In fact, a lot of test and dev environments don't need to be running on Saturday and Sunday. That's 27% of the week. You can save 27% of your costs if you could bring those things down. So 24/7 management with an SLA, paid by the hour model, this is what really grabbed the attention of everybody. And now everybody starts talking about the hyperscalers. They get messages, and these are clear value propositions around quick time to value, easy to test and innovate because you can make these changes, scale up and scale down. This was another pain point of a lot of IT organizations. They took all of that off the table and made it easy. The other thing that came part and parcel with the hyperscale model is that now you had strong compliance and audit controls that were provided for you. So you had auditors coming in and analyzing the infrastructure that you'd be using and providing their annual reports to give you, the SOC 2, Type 2, ISO 27001, and all the variants. Now the hyperscalers are providing that. So again, it makes things more efficient for IT organizations. The other thing to consider for strengths with the hyperscalers is that they did bring an increasing size of a catalog. So now they have a wide catalog of add-on services. That's a reference to if you wanted to do Internet of Things, or you had some other needs for application level products. A lot of the hyperscalers, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, brought their own products to their catalog with only one drawback, and that was that they were all proprietary. So if you did Internet of Things with Amazon, you want to stick with Internet of Things of Amazon, even if they have a better solution at Microsoft or Google. These platforms don't translate one to the other. And this is where you hear, there's 2 comments here about vendor lock-in with hyperscalers. And it's something to be considerate of. But the catalog is one of those vendor lock-ins. The other one we're going to hear about down below is the whole egress fees thing. But finishing off on the strengths of why hyperscalers not only grabbed attention and most businesses were looking to move in that direction is also that they had a global footprint. So if you needed infrastructure in somewhere in the East Coast, but you had a sales office over in California, you could now have 10 virtual machines out in California. Or maybe you have an R&D facility over in Tokyo, Japan. Didn't matter. Now you don't have to rent a cabinet from somebody. Now you don't have to buy an internet service. It was really easy to deploy quickly with the hyperscalers in remote locations. So a lot of buzz, a lot of benefits, a lot of value were delivered to enterprises. And this is why in the future model, turn the page to 2025, we see that the hyperscalers combined, they're growing leaps and bounds compared to all the on-prem solutions. They're taking market share every year from solutions like VMware and the others because they have so many benefits to offer. Now, having said that, with all the benefits, there are some challenges with the hyperscalers. And so the big one you hear most often when you go to IT conferences and you meet with other professionals in the IT space, it's been really difficult to manage to a budget. Why is that? It's mainly because with the hyperscalers, they have rack rate or full price retail prices for any of your on-demand use. You can get discounting if you agree to buy things for 12 months long, whether you use it or you don't. Or if you get something for 3 years, whether you use it or you don't. Kind of sounds like owning a piece of hardware, doesn't it? But a lot of organizations they can't make that commitment to 1 year or 3 years for particular virtual machines. So they pay for the on-demand usage. And that's where the rates get pretty high. The other thing that's difficult to manage to a budget is that there's a lot of fees involved. They've got to charge for this and the billing is complicated. And so anytime this adds more and more sophistication to how your cost model looks, it makes it harder to stay inside the budget where you probably asked for $10,000 a month or $100,000 a year for some of your hosting infrastructure. But for you to stay inside that budget becomes a very large task. By the way, we touched on it earlier, but one of the other fees that the hyperscalers brought to the market was data transit fees, and they had to do this. So this is where when you move data out of the cloud, you move it to a partner, you move it to your end user customers, you move data to on-prem. They have a fee for that. It goes by the gig. The reason this changed a lot of things and is a challenge for a lot of organizations is it now changes how you face architecting your solutions. Maybe if you had daily updates going to an ecosystem partner with your catalog updates or inventory updates, that now has an expense attached to it. Where before, when you were doing things on-prem, you could update your partners by the hour, and it didn't actually cost anything because you didn't have a data transit fee. So this is what drives the conversations to the hyperscalers. They are a great solution. They've taken a lot of market share. They have their strengths, but they also have their challenges.
So Jeff, is there any way to do hyperscaler on-prem?
So we might have a solution for that. Let's look at the next page.
Also, to double click on what you said about what I call reserved, or what I've heard called reserved instances within a AWS or Azure. Just to double click on what you said, in order to get discounts, you need to go with reserved instance or something similar to that, and that you are paying for 730 hours a month, 312 months a year. So it sort of goes counter to the scale up, scale down, right? If you want to get that discount, then you have to pay for that machine to be up 24/7, 365. And if you don't, then you're gonna end up paying the rack rate pricing, the highest pricing on a per hour basis while the machine is turned on.
Yeah,
Right?
and a good way to look at that is if you needed to clone an environment to test a patch, you're going to pay double the rates. That's the rack rates compared to the discounted rates. You'll pay double the rates for that extra environment. And that's a problem because now it's hard to keep things within your budget. So it has scale up and scale down, but it comes at a cost.
So now we'll transition over to the Xceptional Cloud powered by Zadara.
Yep,
Jeff?
so Xceptional Cloud does have those benefits of the hyperscale. It was built with a view towards the hyperscalers. It has those strengths that you've seen. So we won't read all these to you, but about the big taglines of it's fully managed with an uptime SLA. It's got pay by the hour. All these things about quick time to value, scale up. All of those are there. The audit controls. It's got all of those benefits too. It also has some extended benefits. When it comes to moving your workloads from on-prem or from VMware to this particular cloud, this is Xceptional Cloud can be on-prem with you. So it can be a private installation of it dedicated just for you. Or you can also leverage a global footprint of clouds all over the world. If you want to use that entirely, or you want to use that to complement what you have, you can do those things. But migrating your applications from your old hosting model to this model become easier because it supports legacy networking models and it can do all the advanced VPC modes. It's also something that the customer support model was also challenging with the hyperscalers, meaning they wanted to sell you a service for doing extended support and having resources, shared resources that could talk about your particular solution. So inside Xceptional Cloud, you'll see a much stronger and closer to the customer support type of model. Now, what are the weaknesses to looking at something like this? Having either a private cloud on-prem or going with somebody else's global footprint? Well, it has fewer add-on services than the hyperscalers. So because it's not the size of an Amazon or a Microsoft or a Google, you won't see an Internet of Things platform that you can use. Now, you will see all the bits you need for hosting your virtual machines and where you're coming from when you're coming from VMware or one of the other on-site type of solutions. It also comes with multiple partners for if you want to do virtual desktop, you can do Citrix, which is the #1. You can also do Inuvica, which is an alternative for that. So there are multiple partners to choose from for other virtual services on top, backup and recovery tools, etc. There's still the ecosystem of the things that you need, but it's a smaller set. So that's fewer services than the hyperscalers as an add-on, fewer integration partners, but still you got great ones for the things that you need. And lastly, the public footprint. Yeah, this one's only in 9 countries instead of the 17 that Amazon may have. But for most North America organizations, this is going to be a nice complement because we have all the major cities of the hyperscalers. So we can still cover you with either all of your hosting needs, or if you want to complement to an on-prem, you can use an Xceptional Cloud on-prem and complement it with this global infrastructure.
So it's a hyper-converged, flexible solution that can be delivered on-prem in your own data center, in an exceptional owned data center, or in a partner ecosystem global footprint. Correct?
Yep, we just need 13 rack units and we can get you a whole storage system, a fully redundant storage system, fully redundant compute infrastructure, and 100 gig, Ethernet networking. So it's all compact.
Yeah,
It's a
so
cloud in a box, if you will.
compute, storage, and network all in that 13U.
They are. And for people that want the next level of detail on that, we do have a page. We're going to touch on that briefly. So let's talk for a moment about what does Xceptional offer that could benefit you when you're looking at your choices out there for a VMware alternative. So the question we would pose is, what if you could receive all the best benefits of the hyperscalers? These are the things about, the 24/7 management and uptime SLA. Remember all the benefits we said that are causing companies across the board to be attracted towards the hyperscale model. What if you get the best of those benefits, but without the challenges that typically come? Challenges of complicated billing get replaced with a simple pricing model, a very simple pricing model with simple billing. Rack rates for your on-demand usage. Well, nope. With Xceptional Cloud, it's the same price for everything, regardless if you're buying more of it, you're buying less of it, your discounts hold all the way across the board. And so it does make it much easier to manage to a budget. We have plenty of controls in place with Xceptional Cloud for you to also put containment limits on the different tenants, how much they can buy. But managing to a budget is fundamentally a lot easier and requires less work on an Xceptional Cloud. Rounding out, what if the message of, what if you could have the best of the benefits without the challenges? We're going to talk about this robust support model again. In an Xceptional Cloud relationship, you have an assigned technical resource that you can interact with. That is a big game changer, because thinking about a cloud model and all the great new things you can do is that much more effective and faster for you to move if you have a technical partner you're working with is bundled into the solution, so you don't have to pay extra for that. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, essentially, the power of a hyperscaler, but the flexibility of white glove service, and on-prem capabilities, yet still multi-tenant. So if you're an organization that has multiple business units or organizations that you need to build back or that you need to track separately, it can be very easily done. It's got the Exceptional Cloud powered by Zadara has accounts, projects, and then multi-level administration within each project. So you can get granular in how you divide up your workloads and how you organize your workloads and how you allow administrative access to it. And again, emphasizing the fully secure, fully robust, encrypted, everything logged, easy to audit from a compliance standpoint.
Yep. And then I know that for time management here, we'll go quickly to the next page, which talks about that what if you could have those same benefits of the best benefits of the hyperscalers that everybody's been very attracted to, they very much relate with, but you could also make sure you're not receiving the challenges that come from the on-prem or the do-it-yourself design and manage solutions. So the fact that when you do it yourself, you're not getting that 24/7 support on the weekends and you don't have an uptime SLA, that's solved by the Exceptional Cloud. The fact that when you add new applications and you're going to scale the system, that's all on Exceptional. They'll be looking at your capacity. They'll make sure that there's capacity ahead of where your needs are, especially as you can start to forecast big new applications that are coming. But increasing storage by 20% is a same-day event on an Exceptional Cloud without a problem. There's other messages on this slide that we really want to emphasize is that there have been reasons that hold people back from going to the public clouds, or they go to the public clouds, they want to come back because, again, the expenses are hard to manage, or they've made changes with their on-prem approach. We really wanted to illuminate some of those reasons why Exceptional Cloud, we've worked very hard to make sure that we've been able to accentuate the best things and still address some of the challenges that exist out there. Let's move to the next page and we'll talk about Xceptional.
Yeah, how can Xceptional help you? Well, we've been talking a lot today about our Xceptional Cloud line of business. And the way I describe that is servers, storage, backup, and recovery. So public, private, and hybrid clouds. That's our Xceptional Cloud line of business. We have 4 other lines of businesses that complement the Xceptional Cloud that I'll talk through briefly. Exceptional Care. So this kind of goes to that white glove service that I was talking about, where we can provide remote and on-site managed services, 24/7 monitoring, help desk, network operations. We can manage desktops, network infrastructure, servers, server infrastructure, phone systems, phone system infrastructure, et cetera, all for a monthly all-you-can-eat cost. And we offer virtual CIO type services on a quarterly or monthly basis to engage with our customers, discuss strategy, business objectives, and set and budgets and priorities, et cetera. Exceptional Protect complements, again, both Exceptional Cloud and Exceptional Care, is a cybersecurity focused offering. So virtual chief information security officer, penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, security awareness training, cyber risk assessments, MDR, XDR, next-gen antivirus, or security operations center. All that kind of stuff goes under Exceptional Protect. Exceptional Networks. This is the line of business on which the company was founded. Essentially, the company was called Exceptional Networks when it was founded because at the time, back in 2007, all we did was enterprise networking technology. So local area networks, wide area networks, VPNs, and Wi-Fi solutions. We have a very robust and mature networking practice, and that's called Exceptional Networks. And lastly, Exceptional Connect, part of our ecosystem of offerings. We design and build and operate collaboration networks, voice, video, and web-based conferencing services. And that's Exceptional's line of business. So that we can help you by offering you an Exceptional Cloud, but we can also enhance that offering by including some of our other lines of business.
It's an impressive lineup, to be sure. So we want to leave behind some of the pages for the audience as a PDF. This slide is a catalog slide, and it's meant to show everybody that next level of detail. We talked about that Exceptional Cloud has these great benefits and features for you to take advantage of, When you look at the specific catalog, it's all of the hosting bits that you would like to have and more. And so this catalog slide again is just a reminder that it's around those basics of hosting VMs, but it also has those advanced capabilities that you enjoy only with the hyperscalers. Things like load balancers that are intelligent enough to go ahead and automatically scale your virtual machine farm up or down. These are regular table stakes with the hyperscalers, and they're regular table stakes with this solution here. And the reason it's in the recipe is that this is meant to simplify your management of your IT infrastructure. It's meant to help you contain your cost, and it's meant to make it so that it's easy for you to have agility with your IT infrastructure. So we'll move on beyond the catalog slide here so that we can wrap up and have some time for some questions.
Before we move on, could you talk about the GPU capabilities that an exceptional cloud powered by Zadara has?
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a new entrant for people to think about, a cloud-based infrastructure where you pay by the hour. 9 out of 10 people are going to say, yeah, that's only something that's ever going to happen in the hyperscalers. Well, we worked very hard with NVIDIA to be able to deliver that capability in exceptional cloud, since it's an option you can select or not have selected. But if you want to start running some of these newer applications, maybe Gen AI applications in a private setting, bring the brain and the smarts of AI to your data on-prem instead of trying to take your data and go push it up to a hyperscaler somewhere. Exceptional cloud is very well aligned with that. And we have reference architectures where you could be up in the same day using this infrastructure with infrastructure as code on top of exceptional cloud. You can build one of our reference recipes right off of GitHub and be talking to your data with a chatbot. Same afternoon you get started.
You mentioned Gen AI or large language models. What other applications are there for GPU in this environment?
Yeah, so the high-level categories are what we've been talking about with generative AI, but there's also the entire ecosystem of graphics acceleration. So there's organizations that are replacing high-end desktops with Adobe Premiere or things like that with GPU-enabled farms on-prem using virtualization technology like Exceptional Cloud. And so as an alternative to buying more and more hardware on the desktop, because only one user can use that physically at one time, and they all have to use it during the same hours of the day, we've virtualized that. And so you still get the high performance of one GPU to one virtual machine type of relationship, but you can also do graphics workstation acceleration, which is another key business use case for another way to be able to optimize your costs, save money, and control spend.
Great. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
So what should you do next? Well, reach out, contact Xceptional, and schedule your free consultation. What does that mean? So we'll get involved with you, meet with you, discuss your environment, and we'll help you provide the tools to help you inventory that VMware environment, right? We'll provide that report, and we'll analyze the efficiency of the current design. We'll then collaborate with you on a design for cloud, a migration to a cloud, a public cloud, or hybrid cloud, or an on-premise cloud, depending on your needs. We'll also, scale it appropriately. And the idea is that with an exceptional cloud offering, there's no significant capital investment, right? Your investment is all operational expense. We build out the solution for a certain scale, and that comes with a floor price. And you only pay that floor price until you exceed the consumption that would equal that floor price, and then you scale above it. So really low cost barrier to entry, and scales up with you when you need it to, and scales down with you to the floor when you need it to. We can, as part of that consultation, provide budgetary estimates, a monthly cost post migration as an estimate, and a migration cost for us to help you migrate into a exceptional cloud solution. And so we create budget. And then at the end of that free consultation, you'll have enough information to decide, is this a viable solution for you? Does it fit your budget? And do you like the capabilities? We'll also obviously expose you to the Zadara user interface and all the capabilities that are contained within there, and how we can enhance that capability with other partners or other features or functions.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's a great offer. And so a lot of organizations that are considering, what do I need to do? What do I want to do before my next renewal comes or something like that? This is some of the key items that they're going to engage on anyways. They're going to look at what are my requirements? What are my options in front of me? And so the offer here is to be able to meet with you and help go through a mechanized process to get you some of those answers, get them quickly and get them in a transparent way that you'll see all these things. So it's not requirements gathering for the sake of exceptional. It's requirements gathering for you. So you really know when you look at your various options, how much of what you're looking for.
And it's also probably important to mention that, Exceptional Cloud isn't the only offering we have, right? So this is not Exceptional Cloud or nothing. We can help migrate into other solutions as well if that's your preference. So while we like to highlight Exceptional Cloud powered by Zadara today, we are a full service value-added reseller and managed service provider. So there could be other outcomes as well. This slide is obviously intended to say thank you for coming today. At the bottom, you'll see our website, xceptional.com, and our phone number there for you to note down and reach out to us should you want to schedule that appointment for the free consultation.
Yeah, so hopefully the audience, everybody appreciated that we went through some pretty meaty details there. That was about a dozen slides about your different options and some of the background of these things. So if you agree that we've brought you some valuable information, definitely recommend for you to take Chris up on his offer to go out there and have a survey of the discovery of your requirements.
I think next we were going to talk, address some questions or maybe, breakout conversation. Do we have any questions?
Thank you. So everybody, you'll see at the bottom of your screen a chat or a Q&A. Please pop your questions into either the Q&A at the bottom or the chat, either one. We can see them both. If you could do that now, that'd be great, and we'll answer your questions. Nice job, guys. Thank you so much. It was very informative. I also wanted to let everybody know here, we will send you a copy of the recording so you can share with your peers, as well as a copy of the slides we just have shown you here.
Yeah, while that's being queued up, I wanted to point out that, a lot of IT organizations, they're looking at new realities of budget. So if it's anything that touches the government, as we know, they're looking now at new realities for budget. But it also happens in the commercial industries with so much innovation happening so quickly. People are looking for ways to reduce cost. We want you to take a look at the information you saw today and really realize that there's been a lot of work designed into these products to make it so that not only is it something that you can achieve a lower cost basis, a TCO, by using a managed service with all these capabilities, but also to keep you flexible so that the next move that you want to make becomes easier, faster, and something that, again, you'll have that ability to change it or unwind it later. This is the new version of IT. Scaling down or pulling things back and not having to pay for those things, this is new. It happens in the hyperscalers for the on-demand rates, the rack rates, but that's almost double the price of other things. So we've really focused on these offers to make it that you could really achieve that lower TCO by just having the better pricing and the better flexibility. And then the last thing we really worked on a lot in this particular offer is to have that closer to the customer support model. So having an allocated resource to you that's assigned to you, that's available, they know how your cloud's built, they know how you're running your applications. This is a game changer. And it's been something that our customers definitely have had a lot of interaction with and received a lot of value out of.
Thanks, Jeff. It looks like we have a question here. Can Zadara be a complete replacement, or does it complement VMware in a hybrid setups?
So it can do both. So first thing that we see use cases, our customers want to use this exceptional cloud as burst capacity, and that allows them to start staging their migrations. You don't want to take your entire software-defined data center and move it over in a weekend unless it's smaller. But in most cases, you'll see that they coexist together, and across this 100 gig capable networking, we can migrate virtual machines straight out of their VLAN, stretch the VLAN, move them over to a secondary VPC inside of Zadara, or we can use the VLAN, legacy VLAN mode. And so with that stretched VLAN, the virtual machines, they don't actually know that they've been separated and they're on two different platforms. They just know that they're working on the same network that they were working on before. And then at a time of your choosing, and at the speed your business is comfortable with, you can go ahead and migrate yourself off of one pond onto the other. and be able to move that over. So that'd be our replacement. But there's also plenty of organizations that use this capability for burst capacity. And that also extends to the topic of storage. People need more and more storage than they ever needed before. The alternative to going out and buying another storage array and being married to that for 3 to 5 years is to put that as a part of what you buy with your Xceptional cloud. You wish you had 300 terabytes of object storage. You're able to provision that and use that. What if a year from now, instead of 300 tera, you need 600 tera, or you need 50 tera? You can do these variations with an Xceptional cloud. You're not married to the actual hardware that was being used there. The last point to add to this entire message about this flexibility and the migration is it an all or nothing thing? Due to the fact that the Xceptional cloud, it's been built and designed, powered by Zadara, been built and designed to look like a lot of familiarity to AWS. Why is that? We didn't want to create yet another standard in the marketplace. So our AWS had some brilliant ideas of how they characterize a virtual machine, how they have APIs for the creation, modification, monitoring, or destruction of virtual assets. There's over 150 of those API calls in the hosting space where those are faithfully emulated by an Xceptional cloud. So some of your scripts and your tools can translate over without modification. That was done for a reason. It makes it so that your staff is a lot easier to be able to move into this particular model because either they've had exposure to the way Amazon does things, or when they work with an Xceptional cloud, they'll gain skill sets that again are transferable in case you want to do multi-cloud with Amazon or Microsoft. It'll look very familiar.
Thanks, Jeff. It looks like we have one more question. How does Zadara's consumption-based pricing compare to VMware's licensing model?
So that's another very good question to be asking ourselves. This is where literally you're not married to this physical infrastructure anymore. If you need an environment to live on, let's say you have an application 1 that you're running for your ERP, and you want to bring in application number 2, with VMware, you'd be looking to license a lot of infrastructure. And even if you were to turn off licensing with VMware down the road somewhere, you're still going to be paying for that hardware. When it's a true consumption model, like it is with Xceptional Cloud, you're only paying for what you use. And so if you have an application that can be turned off on the weekends, or it can be turned down in scale of resources during the weekend, you can reduce your operational expense right now. And for those applications where the old application lives for a little while, the new application lives now, you'll have that overlap period, but the minute you turn off that old application, the charges stop. So consumption-based billing has been super popular with the hyperscalers, and it's one of the promises everybody's been looking towards. We've just, with our offer, been able to build it where discounting makes it so that on-demand is also affordable on Xceptional Cloud, whereas the hyperscalers, they're charging about double.
Let me boil that down just a little bit. VMware licenses their product on a subscription basis based on the number of cores that you have in your hardware footprint. So you have to go out and buy your server infrastructure, buy your storage infrastructure, buy your network infrastructure, and then license that for the use of VMware. And that is a subscription basis. So it's an operational cost. And as we've talked about, the price has gone up a lot. Where Xceptional Cloud is just based on your consumption of CPU, RAM, and storage. The more you consume, the more you pay. The less you consume, the less you pay. So very, very simple comparison.
That's great. It looks like we have a comment from Shihab that says, thank you for sharing all the beautiful features of Xceptional Cloud from Zadara. I really like what I've seen, and I believe it has a strong future ahead. I also have a NASA space competition coming up, and I may consider Xceptional Cloud as an option in that context.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, sounds very good.
Thank you, Shihab.
Looks like we have no other questions at this time. This is great. Thank you both very much. Very informative. We will send you the slides as well as the recording to share out.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye.